Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live or however you choose to read your clock, this early morning or middle of the night bonus. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. The merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter and are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? All right, so for this early morning, middle of the night bonus, I have compiled some very terrifying Dogman experiences and some very interesting high-strangeness coming out of the Vatican. Let's get into it.
Today's first subscriber Dogman encounter is brought to us by a new subscriber named Lovely Cryptid. It also comes to us from Louisiana. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I took dance classes that sometimes ran into early night. My parents had picked me up, and we were going about 60 to 70 miles an hour on the highway in my dad's truck. There weren't many cars on the road. I was in the back seat, right side, watching the shadows from the streetlights. I was bored and counting how many street lamps there were based on their shadows, since the lamps were on the left-hand side. After one lamp, a shadow appeared of a dog-like creature on all fours. It had dog-like ears, but almost looked like what a person would look like on all fours. I remember being scared as it looked quite large, and I was worried because I didn't know how it was keeping up with us. I tried looking directly back at it through the back window, but the bed of the truck blocked everything. It must have been really close. I'm not sure why I didn't tell my parents. I think it was because I didn't want to take my eyes off of it. Anyway, I could see its running shadow pass by every lamppost shadow, until at one point it was like it just ran behind a lamppost and vanished. Today's second Dogman encounter. I was in a car at night on my way home with my mom about 5 years ago. We were on a dark road and something ran in front of us, causing my mom to slow down quickly. The thing was running on 4 long limbs and was not a fox or a dog, as it didn't look like it had fur. It looked like a human, but really long arms and legs, but it was running so fast it was almost like a blur. My mom doesn't believe in ghosts or creatures or aliens, but even she was seriously freaked out. We talked about it every now and then, and we both agree it was one of the most spookiest things we had ever experienced. Today's third Dogman subscriber encounter was brought to us by our friend from Mexico, the gentleman who had the encounter with the reptile boy. Okay, this happened with good friends of my dad, husband and wife, 2009. First, once a year, the government of Mexico has this regularization program for foreign vehicles to make it legal to drive in Mexico. So this program was going to take place by a lake about 45 minutes from town. By the lake because hundreds of people go, so this way all the traffic won't affect the town. And they wanted to make their truck legal, so they packed lunch for the long day. They spent all day by the lake, and they got their truck paperwork fixed. So on their way back to their house, it was already dark, and when they reached a curve called Federal Curve, called that because a federal agent died in a car accident on this road. This curve is famous because many people have died in car accidents on this curve. Right by the curve crossing from right to left saw this creature. In their words, El Hombre Lobo. They had to slow down because this thing was taking its time to cross. Now this thing didn't turn its head to face them. They noticed a really long snout, huge head with long ears like a Labrador dog. Also, exaggeratedly long forearms, all body covered in gray fur and massive shoulders. It was on two legs, the legs bent backwards like a dog and jogging in a very particular way, not pumping the arms like a person, but keeping the arms steady, like in a 45-degree angle position. And the weird part is it was wearing some kind of cloth. Standing over 2 meters tall, it kept its way into the bushes and to the other side of the road. When they told my dad, they were afraid of being ridiculed. Today's fourth encounter is not a subscriber encounter, but I sure felt it damn strange and wanted to share it with you. Working 30 years as a police officer, I've seen lots of weird and paranormal stuff that can't be explained. There are many caves along the Rio Grande River that have not been explored. There are also a lot of irrigation channels that are unkempt. These channels are strategically placed throughout the valley along the border in case Falcon Dam or Alzadaus Dam overflows. Inside these channels are huge underground man-made ducts that look like apartments. Some have 12-foot ceilings, and some have tunnels that lead to other rooms. I guess this would sort out the water overflow to different channels. I saw several dead bodies, some decapitated, some bound, and some partially eaten by an unknown type of wildlife. It did not reach the media, but at one time there were about 12 homicides. Same M.O., bound from feet upside down from trees, degutted, intestine, heart, liver, stomach, set aside in a circle like ritual. They were supposedly transgendered, but some of these corpses didn't look human, and some were found by exploring kids inside these ducts. I could have sworn the one I saw on Cherriman on Shrey Road had broken off wings. This happened in the late 80s. I wish I had pictures to show, but yeah, it may have been a humanoid or a gargoyle offspring. I once saw one that leapt 30 feet across the road on all fours, then stood up like a man. It was slender, hairy, and about 5 feet tall. It stared at me as I was in my police car. I stepped out and kept it at gunpoint for a few seconds. I didn't know what it was. It resembled a human, but leapt like a cat. It then jumped about 20 feet into a tree. I was a rookie in '87 and chased it. I tracked and found its foot sign. It was like a human, elongated foot with paws. The sighting was on Sherbach Road, south of the 2 Mile Road, Mission, Texas. Crazy enough, I saw another one near the Roma Bluff. I was on special assignment with the La Migra Border Patrol, hunkered down with my M4. I had to piss. I found an isolated spot. It was uphill on a boulder, just upriver from Roma Port of Entry. I thought my piss was falling on a garden hose. The hose then moved away. It scared the crap out of me. I swung out my M4. I've been waiting for dope crossing, but this was too weird. As I hand-motioned my partner to watch my 12 while I went down to look, the same frickin' type of human-like cat creature peeked out from behind a boulder. It was 10 feet in front of me. I froze, but I yelled at it, "Get down, asshole!" It didn't respond, but then stared at me, looked away, then leapt 30 feet high into the brush. Of course, I chased after it, but my partner saw it as well. We called our team downslope to be on the lookout. As soon as we called them, it ran past them. They couldn't make out its face, but it was the same creature. Yes, I believe there are some supernatural creatures out there. They are very real, but you just gotta be there at the right place to see them. Today's fifth Dogman encounter is a subscriber encounter. It was shared through the comment section. I reached out to him. He responded back and has not responded since. I'm going to share this with you guys. You guys can read it, but he has also shared his ex-wife's encounter with us a while ago. I'm not going to share his name because if you guys are interested, you guys can find it in the comments. After I narrate his encounter, I will share what else he said and why I'm a little bit nervous. Hey Jeff, I think I know why I'm so obsessed with the Dogman. I was speaking on the phone with my mom, and she reminded me that when I was 9, I had come home crying and shaking, and all I could say is a werewolf had chased me. Suddenly, I remembered what happened to me on that day. I was walking down the main road in this small town that I still live in to this day at the age of 42. And I came to a place where there was, and still is, woods on each side of the road when suddenly a giant black animal came out of the woods and ran towards me. It didn't attack me or try to attack. It came out of the woods on all fours, and it was taller than me. I was short, but still probably 4 foot tall at 9 years old. I'm not positive what it was, but something made me think it was a werewolf, and I think it possibly went on 2 legs as it continued across the road into the woods on the opposite side of the road. I can picture its face perfectly, but not its body. I can see it when I close my eyes and think on the event that I cannot believe I had forgotten about this, possibly blocked it out. Because that memory is so sharp in my mind now. It was huge, jet black, and had tall, pointed ears, and it scared me to the point that I pissed myself. I can remember it looked out from the brush, and it did not look friendly or happy to see me. It looked out off the brush and came charging at me. Once it came out of the woods, there's this huge ditch that it had to cross before it got to the other side of the road where I was standing. I can't remember its body as it crossed the ditch, but my mom said that I told her that it ran out of the woods and jumped over the top of me and kept going. She said that I've been obsessed with werewolves ever since that day, and that I went to the library the next school day and borrowed a book called Meet the Werewolf. I remember that book and reading about different ways to become a werewolf, such as drinking from a wolf's paw print and or putting on a special cloak made from wolf's pelt. You are the only one that I've told, but I'm positive that I had a Dogman encounter in the 80s.
And here is some High-Strangeness from...
The Vatican is considered to be one of the oldest and most conservative institutions in the world, and therefore we come to consider that the Vatican and extraterrestrials are incompatible. In May of 2009, however, the Vatican officially declared that belief in extraterrestrial life was to be considered fully compatible with the Christian faith, an idea that was punished with death during the Inquisition. In an article published in 2008 in his official newspaper, L'Osservatore Romano, and entitled The Extraterrestrial is My Brother, Father Jose Gabriel Fuentes, director of the Vatican Observatory, Jesuit Argentine, said that astrology, it is a perfectly respectable science, and that on other planets there may be life. According to Catholic doctrine, all human beings are marked by original sin caused by the rebellion of Adam and Eve against God, and then cast out of Eden. Since extraterrestrials do not belong to Earth, they may not be marked by original sin. The paranoid conspirators claim the Vatican is moving with some sort of disclosure. There is a kind of disclosure movement on the part of the Vatican. They consider it a measure intended to prepare the public for what is known as disclosure, a revelation by the governments of the earth that we are not alone and that contacts are being made with extraterrestrial beings. The priest, Giordano Bruno, defender of the extraterrestrial idea. In the Middle Ages, the idea of extraterrestrial life was expounded by some religions. In the 1600s, the priest, Bruno, was burned at the stake for claiming that life could exist outside of our planet. In 2000, Pope John Paul II, Juan Pablo II, expressed his regret for what happened to Father Bruno, as this was the moment when they stated that the greatest danger does not come from earth, but from the heavens. Theologians and astronomers of the Vatican Observatory have many times declared that on all the planets of the universe there could be beings who follow God as men do. The Vatican's alleged interest in intelligent life, in other words, the theologians of the Vatican affirm that the theory of existence of life on other planets is more than probable, since even God does not limit his intelligence and his power, and that beyond human beings and angels there could be others who believe in him and in his glory. According to what they say, these beings could protect and help humanity in the environmental issues that are ruining the earth, and also help the religiosity and belief of people who have no faith in the Catholic Church. Some UFOologists claim that it will be the Vatican itself that will announce the existence of contacts with other forms of intelligent life. According to some theories, it would be a good deal for the Vatican to announce an event like that. This, as it would gain more power in politics, religion, economics, as well as more trust from its loyal and non-loyal followers. This maneuver would also give the Pope absolute power over all religions. The Vatican would have an advantage over all humanity. Who better to announce to the world that there is extraterrestrials and or contact was made with the Vatican? Hypothetically, such an event would be an essential move on control of the masses and the domination of the Christian religion, a way to improve and strengthen its system of domination and control of the masses. Theories aside, numerous independent sources have predicted that the Vatican's disclosure of extraterrestrials is imminent, and that the Obama administration is called upon to play an important part. The Vatican is also preparing to play an important role in this announcement and in the world of pre-disclosure or post-disclosure, Its emerging theological position that extraterrestrials are our brothers is a change from the more hostile representations of extraterrestrial life found in some religion denominations and in Hollywood films. On the other hand, the idea that the Vatican could justify sending missionaries to convert extraterrestrial beings born without original sin raises no major problems. The Vatican is playing a constructive role in preparing the population for the imminent disclosure of extraterrestrial life. Let's talk a little bit more about that unholy alliance, huh? After World War II, the Vatican, the CIA, the ex-Nazis, and the Sicilian American Mafia forged an alliance to fight the Cold War against the former Soviet Union and growing pro-Soviet influence in Europe and the rest of the world. In a recently published book titled Operation Gladio, The Unholy Alliance Between the Vatican, the CIA, and the Mafia, journalist Paul L. Williams offers disturbing new evidence that exposes what he calls an unholy alliance. The story began in early 1942 with the formation of the Vatican Bank. The same year, the Office of Naval Intelligence, the predecessor of the CIA, recruited Lucky Luciano, a drug lord. The Swiss director of the Office of Strategic Services, Alan Dulles, concluded, "We are fighting the wrong enemy, Alan Dulles." The Schutzstaffel, better known as the Nazi SS, sent a message to Dulles through the Vatican that the Nazi government wanted to make a separate peace with the United States. They wanted to fight the Soviets. Dulce met with Prince Mac von Hohenlohe in Bern, Switzerland. Hohenlohe found that Dulce agreed with him. Dulce later also met with other Nazi officials to forge a new alliance. For his part, the chief of special intelligence for the OSS in China, Colonel Paul Helliwell, thought of another unholy alliance between the United States intelligence community and organized crime. Lucky Luciano, consequently, U.S. intelligence agency broke mob boss Lucky Luciano out of jail, allowing him to build his narcotic empire, and simply sat by and watched the flow of drugs flowing into the black ghettos and much of New York and Washington. The unholy alliance of American spies and criminals was repeated everywhere, from Laos to Burma to Panama. After Richard Nixon became president in '69, the strategy of tension gained more momentum. The national advisor Henry Kissinger gave orders to Licio Galli, an Italian fascist agent of Propaganda do P2 Masonic Lodge, to carry out terrorist acts and coup attempts. The United States and the Vatican invested millions of dollars in these operations. Most of the money was raised in questionable ways. The first major attack in Europe took place on December 12, '69, when a bomb exploded in the lobby of the Banca Naziola del Argenteuola in Milan, Italy. 17 people died in the explosion. Within an hour, 3 bombs exploded in Rome. According to official figures, 14,591 acts of politically motivated violence took place between January 1st of '69 and December 31st of 1987. In these terroristic acts, 419 people were killed and 1,181 injured. All these attacks were falsely blamed on far-left anarchists and Marxist groups. A large number of similar terrorist acts were carried out in other European countries between '65 and '81. After a series of foiled assassination attempts on French President Charles de Gaulle, he denounced the Pentagon's secret war and expelled the European headquarters of NATO into your country. In Latin America, the CIA and the Vatican launched Operation Condor, the Latin American version of Operation Gladio. Any government risked attack through this operation if it advocated the nationalism of private industry, radical land reform, and trade policies accepted of Soviet aid, or an anti-American foreign policy. The CIA and the Vatican began Operation Condor in the '70s, when Opus Dei garnered support from the Chilean bishops to overthrow of government of President Allende. The Catholic group was working closely with the CIA-funded organizations such as Patria Libertad, which later became the feared Chilean secret police, Kissinger and Pinochet. In 1971, the CIA began shelling out millions of dollars to the Chilean Institute of General Studies, an Opus Dei think tank, for planning the uprising against Allende. Many IGS members joined the government after the coup. Heron Kublos became Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was the founder of Quapasa, an Opus Dei magazine, and editor of El Mercado, the largest newspaper in Santiago de Chile, which is subsidized by the CIA. In his book, Williams shows that the Vatican was fully involved in Operation Condor. The Pope became fully involved in the purge of left-wing clerics. The leaders of the military junta were devout Catholics. The Vatican didn't abandon General Pinochet, even when he was arrested in Britain for the murders of thousands of Chileans. The Vatican's Secretary of State, Cardinal Angelo Sodano, wrote to the British government on behalf of the Pope to demand his release. Under Pinochet, hundreds of thousands of Chileans disappeared, while more than 4,000 were killed. More than 50,000 Chileans were tortured in the name of the Catholic God. The CIA's dirty war was perpetuated in many Latin American countries with the help and blessing of the Vatican. William quotes the FBI speaker, Sybil Edmonds, who said, "Between 1996 and 2000, we, the United States, planned, financed, and helped execute every major terrorist incident carried out by the Chechen rebels against Russia. Between 1996 and 2002, we, the United States, planned, financed, and helped execute every single uprising and terrorist act in East Turkestan. Between 1996 and 2002, we, the United States, planned and carried out at least 2 assassination plots against pro-Russian officials." This is the real story, and it's not told on TV, my friends. And it still gets darker, my friends. How I warned and warned that Satan would enter into the highest realms of the hierarchy in Rome. My third secret, my child, is that Satan would enter into my son's church, Our Lady of Roses, May 13th, 1978. Father Malachi Martin's accusations. In the Fatima Crusader article, Malachi Martin, a scholar, Vatican insider, and best-selling author, said, "Anyone who is acquainted with the state of affairs in the Vatican in the last 35 years is well aware that the Prince of Darkness has had and still has surrogates in the court of St. Peter in Rome. From 1958 until 64, Jesuit priest Malachi Martin served in Rome, where he was a close associate of and carried out many sensitive missions for the renowned Jesuit Cardinal Augustin Bey and the Pope. Released afterward from his vows of poverty and obedience at his own request, but still a priest, he ultimately moved to New York and became best-selling writer of fiction and nonfiction. Martin had made first reference to a diabolical rite held in Rome in his 1990 nonfiction bestseller about geopolitics and the Vatican, The Keys of This Blood, in which he wrote, "Most frighteningly for Pope John Paul II, he had come up against an irremovable presence of a malign strength in his own Vatican and certain bishops, chancellors. It was what knowledgeable churchmen called the superforce. Rumors, always difficult to verify, tied its installation to the beginning of Pope Paul's the Ninth's reign in 63. Indeed, Paul had alluded somberly to the smoke of Satan which has entered the sanctuary, in oblique reference to an enthronement ceremony by Satanists in the Vatican. Besides the incidents of satanic pedophilia, rites, and practices, was already documented among certain bishops and priests as widely dispersed as Turin in Italy and South Carolina in the United States. The cultic acts of satanic pedophilia are considered by professionals to be accumulation of fallen archangel rites. These allegations have largely gone unnoticed, possibly because he was so crafty in his descriptions that he might even have been referring to the coronation of the Pope himself. But he revealed much more about his alleged ritual in one of his latest works, Windswept House, the Vatican novel, 1996. In this story, he vividly described a ceremony called the enthronement of the fallen Archangel Lucifer, supposedly held at St. Paul's Chapel in the Vatican, but linked with concurrent satanic rites here in the United States on June 29, 63, barely a week after the election of Pope Paul. In the novel, before he dies, the Pope leaves a secret account of the situation in his desk for the next occupant of the throne of Peter, a thinly disguised John Paul II. According to the New American, Martin confirmed that the ceremony did indeed occur as he had described. "Oh, yes, it is true, very much so," the magazine reported him saying. "But the only way I could put it down into print is in a novelistic form." Martin's accusation of satanic ritual at the Vatican is also rumored by John Loeffler, host of the Steel on Steel radio show. Mr. Loeffler personally asked Fra Malachi Martin, who had been a regular guest on his show, about the reported dedication to Satan within the Vatican. Malachi confirmed the first part of his book, Windswept House. He confirmed the dedication of the Vatican to Satan in a secret ceremony that occurred unknown even to the Pope at the time that he managed to pick it up. And I did ask him, was it true? Did it happen? And Fra Martin said, yes, it did. John Loeffler, June 29th, 2000, radio show. Malachi Martin said, more members of the clergy are becoming aware of the situation. The Archbishop several years ago also accused high members of the hierarchy in Rome of practicing Satanism. The Italian newspaper, Tempo, and other major daily papers reported this stunning news. His book, The Windswept House, is a sweeping novel set on a grand global stage and unfolding of the next stage in civilization, the ominously named New World Order. It tackles head-on a number of heavy issues, from abortion to the third secret of Fatima, but the essential message seems to be this: Satanists lurk in the shadows, from the heart of the Vatican down to local parishes, manipulating those duped by false spirit of the Vatican. They are doing their damnedest to subvert the Roman Catholic Church. In the Windswept House, Martin was quite explicit about the conditions in the Vatican, opening the novel with the above-mentioned satanic ritual. In it, Satan was formally enthroned in the Vatican in the chapel of St. Paul. The ceremony was coordinated via telephone with another simultaneous rite in South Carolina. But these minor quibbles, like the keys of this blood windswept house, is written for wide and not necessarily Catholic audience, but both books give an odd feeling of being intended for John Paul himself. It's as if Keys was written to show the Pope that Martin understood what the pontiff was doing in the geopolitical arena and address his concerns for the church's internal situation. Windswept House, however, is much more dramatic and desperate plea to the Pope. Just how bad did Martin judge things to be? Extremely so. Suddenly it became unarguable that now, during the papacy, the Roman Catholic organization carried a permanent presence of clerics who worshipped Satan and liked it, of bishops and priests who sodomized boys and each other, and nuns who performed the black rites of Wicca, and who lived in lesbian relationships every day, including Sunday and holy days. Acts of heresy and blasphemy and outrage and indifference were committed and permitted at holy altars by men who had been called to be priests. Sacrilegious actions and rites were not only performed on Christ's altars, but had the conveyance, or at least the tacit permission, of certain cardinals, archbishops, and bishops. In total number, they were a minority, anything from 1 to 10% of the church personnel. But of that minority, many occupied astoundingly high positions of rank. The facts that brought the Pope to a new level of suffering were mainly two: the systematic organizational links, the network, in other words, that had been established between certain clerical homosexual groups and satanic covens, and inordinate power and influence of that network. At the time of his passing, July 27th, 1999, Martin was at work on what he said would be his most controversial and important book, Primacy: How the Institution Roman Catholic Church Became a Creature of the New World Order, was to deal with power and papacy. This work was to analyze the revolutionary shift that lies at the heart of what many see as the breakdown of papal power. It was to be the book of predictions about the Vatican and the world in the first decades of the new millennium. Malachi Martin never recanted any of his claims that the scene of Windswept House was based on actual satanic ritual in the Vatican in the first days of the reign of Pope Paul, nor that there exists a general satanic conspiracy within the Roman Catholic Church. And the murder of Pope John Paul. The Blessed Virgin Mary's apparitions in Bayside, New York, stated that Satan has entered into the highest realms of the hierarchy in Rome would also explain some very dark secrets surrounding the death of Pope John, who mysteriously died of a heart attack slightly over a month after the election. Regarding the alleged heart attack, his niece affirmed, "In my family, almost no one believes it was a heart attack that killed my uncle. He never had heart troubles or any illness of any kind." San Juan Star, October 3rd, 1978. And Pope John Paul's brother, Eduardo, in Australia on the trade mission, reported that the Pope had been given a clean bill of health after a medical examination 3 weeks ago. He was frail in health as an infant and as a young priest, but there were no reports of heart trouble. San Juan Star, October 9th, 1978. On the early age, so untimely a death might have stirred up deep suspicions. If this were the time of the Borgias, said a young teacher in Rome, there'd be talk that John Paul was poisoned. But the Vatican replied that such allegations were irresponsible. San Juan Star, October 18th, 1978. The fact is, Our Lady's message at Bayside, New York affirmed, man has fallen very low, even resorting to murder. We will go back, my child, in history, a short history, and remember well what had happened in Rome to Pope John, who lasted 33 days. Oh, my child, it is history now, but it is placed in a book that lists the disasters in mankind. He received the horror of martyrdom by drinking from the glass. It was a champagne glass given to him by the now deceased member of the clergy and the Secretariat of State, Cardinal Villatte. Sound incredible? Please note that 1975 ruling from the Vatican ordered that no autopsy could be performed on the Pope. How convenient. What does the Vatican have to fear from an autopsy? Not just Our Lady's message points to foul play. There's a best-selling book by David Yellup that also alleges Pope John Paul was murdered. In God's Name, an investigation into the murder of Pope John Paul.
There you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed this early morning, middle of the night bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real, they are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.